Hello everybody, hope you're all well and staying safe and staying home. In the current climate, a few people over the last few weeks have asked me to tell them how I make bread. And I thought the best way to do that would actually be to make a little video showing how I do it. I've actually got a very simple and versatile recipe ready to go today, which I'm going to show you. You can make, with this, you can make a loaf, you can make a cob, you can make bread rolls, you can make baguettes. I'm actually going to be making a pizza base with mine today, but the process is pretty much the same right until the last point. So I'll show you the ingredients, we'll mix them together, I'll show you how to knead it, I'll show you what you need to do to prove, and I'll then show you how to knock back. At the point at which the dough's been knocked back, you can then turn it into whatever you like, and when we get to that point I'll tell you what you need to do to go into the various different directions. So let's have a quick look at the ingredients I'm going to be using today. Okay, so the ingredients you're going to need are strong white flour. If you can't get strong white flour, plain flour will work, but strong flour will give you a better bind with the gluten strands and will just be a better bit of bread, but you can still do it with plain if you absolutely have to. I'm making a pizza base today, so I'm going to use 300 grams, but if you're going to make a loaf or a couple of small baguettes or a cob or something like that, 500 grams is the standard amount you'd normally need for that kind of thing, so bear that in mind. I'm doing a pizza base, I'll do 300 grams, but otherwise 500 grams is what you'll need for anything a bit more substantial. Okay, there's the flour. You will need some yeast. I use dried yeast. You can get this in little sachets of 7 grams each. You'll need 7 grams of this, but you can get them in these little tins. Tends to be a little bit cheaper per gram if you get them in these little tins, and you can measure out exactly what you want. So if you do end up using, say, half the amount of flour for something, you can use half the amount of yeast. So it's a little bit easier to measure out. But yeah, so yeast. You will need some salt. You will need some sugar, and you will need some water. That's it. That's all that's going into the pizza base for today. Okay, that's the ingredients, and now I'm going to run through the equipment you'll need. So you'll need a mixing bowl, so you can mix the dry ingredients at the start. You'll need something to mix those ingredients with. I use a wooden spoon, but you can use a spatula or a metal spoon, anything like that. It's going to just mix up those ingredients at the start. You'll need a teaspoon. You'll need something to cover the bowl with when you're proving it. You put the dough back in the bowl to prove the dough. You'll need something to cover it up. Cling film is the ideal. We don't tend to have cling film in the house, so we've got a tea towel will do absolutely fine. Doesn't need to be an airtight seal, although obviously ideally if you can make an airtight seal. And something to cook the pizza on. So we have a pizza stone. You can use a baking tray, anything that's going to be a hot surface to cook it on in the oven. Just make sure you've got enough flour and what have you left over to just dust it with so that the bread doesn't stick to it. Okay, so the other thing you're going to need is a set of scales. So we're just going to put the bowl on there. Okay, now as I said before, if you're doing a loaf or a pair of baguettes or something similar to that, 500 grams of flour is what you need. For today, for a pizza base, I'm going to use 300, but the process is the same. So I'm just going to measure out 300 grams. And the next thing I'll do is get the yeast. I'll get that measured out. Now, say 500 grams, you normally put 7 grams of yeast in. I've only got 300 grams of flour, so I'm going to put 5 grams of yeast in. If you've got one of the sachets with the 7 grams in, you can put the whole thing in, it doesn't matter. It won't harm it at all. There we go. Get rid of the scales. Okay, now when you put this in, put it in at the side. Just against the edge. Now we do the same thing, a teaspoon of salt. we are, and put that in a different place but still at the side. And then do the same thing with the sugar. There's the sugar, and put it at the side. So you should have a pile of yeast in one corner, a pile of salt in another corner, and a pile of sugar in the other. So take your spoon and just mix those into the middle, and then mix the whole thing up. Spend a bit of time over this, make sure it's as incorporated as you can make it. That should do. Keep the spoon handy, and the last thing we're going to add is the water. Now do this bit by bit. I'll put a fair bit in to start with, probably just under half of the glass, and then we'll mix it in, and then we'll just add little bits of water here and there. We probably won't need the whole glass. So here we go. And then just gently fold that in over the water. Just be gentle with it. Let the water soak into the flour. When there's no more water visible, just give it a good mix. Okay, so you'll still see there's a load of more flour still in there, so I'll add a bit more water. And do the same thing. Gently to start with. And as soon as you can't see the water again, give it a good hard mix. Okay, so more of the flour's gone now. I'm just going to add a little bit more water, just a touch. Just to pick up the last little bits of flour. So you want it so it's just, so you're just able to touch it without it sort of sticking to your fingers when it comes out. There we go. That should be fine. So that's what we've got now. A nice little bit of dough in the bottom. Now you take your surface. It's a clean surface. I should say I've cleaned my hands, washed my hands, taken my watch and ring off and everything else before I started. Take a little bit of flour. Just dust the surface with it. And then drop your dough onto the middle. There's still a little bit of flour left in the bottom of the bowl, so I'm going to use that on there as well. Put that to one side. Okay, so now comes the important bit. Now we're going to start kneading. Okay, this is the bit that is the make or break. This is the bit that's going to make the difference between a dough that will rise and a dough that won't. So the first stage we need to do is mix it. There's going to be unequal areas of water and other ingredients in there, so we need to mix it so it's nice and smooth. So the way I do that is you just gather it up together, squeeze it, and then push it down. Gather it up, push it down. Gather it up, maybe move it over, push it down. Keep doing that. Build up a bit of speed. Keep doing that until such time as it starts going a little bit more smooth, a little bit less sort of cracky as it is there. If it gets too dry, you can just add a bit more water. And if it gets too wet, if it's just not, if it's still sticking to your fingers, sticking to the surface, just add a bit more flour as you go. So just monitor that and manage that as you go. So pick it up, gather it up, push it down. Gather it up, push it down. Gather it up, push it down. Okay, you should see it's starting to get a little bit more smooth, a little bit less cracked, a little bit more smooth, so just keep going. Okay, so when you get to the point I'm just approaching now where it's smooth and it's not really sticking to your hands too much, it's fairly dry. Just a little bit more actually. There we go. So it's nice and dry, and it's just starting to get a little bit smooth on the top there. That's when we move into the next bit, which is where we start actually working the dough and building those strands. So if you pick up the dough, sort of a long edge, use the palm of your hand, and then push through. Okay, roll it up, stand up on its end, use your palm, push it through. Okay, keep doing that. So pick it up, push, pick it up, push. Keep doing that. Give it some pressure. Don't be gentle with it. This is stage 2 of 3 of the kneading process. Total kneading, you want to spend probably a good 15 minutes in total, start to finish. You get a little rhythm going with this. So that first stage just mixes the ingredients more evenly, which is why it goes nice and smooth. And then the second stage, this is where we start getting the yeast to move. Yeast starts activating, starts expanding, starts forming gluten strands in there. And the third stage, we just accelerate that process. But for now, just keep doing this. Okay, you should feel the dough start to loosen up a bit, be a little less firm the more you do this. So you can see the consistency is getting smoother and smoother as I go. At this point, give it a smell. You should start smelling the gluten coming through. If you want to change hands, you can do. Give your hand a rest. Or if you want to do both hands, you can go one way and then the other way. I tend to build up to do this towards the end. Just saves the arm a little bit. So you move it, you can roll it back so it's in a sausage shape and then push it the other way. Roll it back, sausage shape, keep going. Okay, so I can see that's getting really quite smooth in texture. It's almost sort of like a heavy Play-Doh kind of texture to it. See, it sort of stretches quite well. Now for the third stage. So third stage, pop it down on the surface with your non-dominant hand, grab the back with your fingers, and with the other hand, palm, and push. And what you want is for it to stretch and look like it's breaking as you're going around. Roll it back, turn it round, grab and push. Same thing, roll it back, grab, put it this way, might be easy for you to see, like that, and push. Okay, what that's doing is it's stretching and breaking the strands so that they becomes more pliable. Keep doing that. Again, spend a few minutes on this bit. Let's say you can't over knead bread dough, so it's always best to do a bit more rather than a bit less. If it starts to feel like it's falling apart a little bit, that's fine. Just go back to stage 2. Just for a few rounds. And it's back to the way it was, and off we go again. Just keep going. It's getting to the point where it's just about ready now. Yep, smells really strong. You can smell the gluten in there really strongly. So, take your bowl, a little bit of flour in the bottom, just a touch. Take your dough, okay, put it into a ball, and then squeeze it around the back, okay? So push your fingers in the bottom, squeeze it around the back. Just go around, keep doing that. You make a little bit of a dome, and you should find, if you've done this for long enough, that you don't end up with splits in the top. It just stretches to accommodate. So do that for a little bit, and then you should have like a bowl shape. Bring that all in and just pinch the bottom to seal it up. Okay, so that's what we should be left with. Put that in top side down into the flour, give it a little rub, flip it over, give it another little rub, and that'll just stop it from sticking to the bowl, make it a lot easier to take out later. I'm then going to cover it. You can use cling film, that's probably the best if you've got it. If not, a tea towel is absolutely fine. Put that over the top and put it to one side. If you've got somewhere that's a little bit warmer, that's good. Don't put it right next to a radiator or anything, but just a nice warm place. Put it to one side and leave it for about 45 minutes. A bit longer, a bit shorter, doesn't matter, but about 45 minutes is what you want. And I'll come back to you once that's done. Okay, so the dough's been proving. I'll just take the cover off. And you can have a look inside. See, it's pretty much doubled from the size it was just now. I'm going to tip that out onto the surface. There we go, nice and easy because we floured it to begin with. Now it's full of air, so all the yeast has reacted and there's air pockets in there. The step we need to do next is to knock it back, so that's just beat that air back out of the dough. So what I'm going to do is just punch it down. And just go around. So make sure you catch every little bit. There we go. Okay, so from this point you can go in pretty much any direction. So everything up until this point is the same no matter what you make. If you've used 500 grams and you're going for making a loaf, get your loaf tin, pick up the dough, roll it into a sort of a sausage shape, squeeze it in, make sure the crease of the fold is along the bottom when you put it into the tin. If it's on the side or on the top, when it expands and rises in the oven, it'll explode out in all funny directions. Put it on the bottom, you won't have that problem. If you want to make it into a baguette, same thing, make it into a sort of a long sausage shape, cut 3 grooves in the top with a knife, and off you go, stick it in the oven. If you want that crispy surface you get on baguettes, put some water in the bottom of the oven first, and the steam will give you that sort of crispy surface. You can roll them into a ball, make rolls, whatever you want. Today though we're doing pizza base. So the way to do a pizza base is you want to try and get it so that the middle is thinner than the edge. So obviously the edge will be the crust, and you want it to come to a certain thickness and then be thinner in the middle. So I normally just punch the middle a little bit extra just to thin it out. And then I'm going to tilt the camera up. There we go. And then pick it up and just make it go in a circle. Just feed it through your hands in a circle, and gravity will start to stretch it for you. So this is how your hands stretch a pizza base. So just keep going around, you can see it stretching as you go. And so if you've done the kneading right, you've proved it for long enough, it'll be nice and easy, it'll get nice and big this way. So if you take your cooking surface, hand the camera back down. There we are. So it could be a baking tray, or we've got a pizza stone here, same principle. Just make sure it's not going to stick, so put some flour on there and just spread it around. Okay, I'll get the dough on there. Nice, so nice and thin in the middle, nice thick around the outside, nice thick crust. Okay, so we're going to do essentially a very basic margherita. If you look online, you can find all sorts of recipes for sauces, but we're going to do very basic here. We're going to use some tomato puree, and just pop that on. Yeah. And if you're going to go proper Italian, if you get some semolina, before you put the topping on, you can put semolina onto the actual dough. And at this point you put a little bit of olive oil on there, but we're just going very basic today. You can choose your toppings, but we're going to do just 50 grams of cheddar cheese. And that is ready to go. So for this we'll put it in probably about 200 degrees and cook it for maybe 25-30 minutes. We'll keep checking it as we go. There we go, all done. Give it a try, post a picture. Good luck.